Good morning, everyone. So, today we have Dr. Anshul Gupta with us in our next episode. She is founder, author, researcher. She has her own corporate organization called as uh, Corporate Spirituality. Over to Anshul. Would you please brief us about your past, how you came to this current role, everything?
Hi, thanks, Nitin. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this podcast. To tell you my journey, our startup is named as thecorporatespirituality.com, and it is based on my own 7 years of research. So, I did my MPhil and PhD on the subject of workplace spirituality. So, herein we are not telling people to do yoga or meditation or anything like that. It is based on five principles, that is, finding meaning in life through work, having interconnectedness at work, your values and organization values matching, having compassion and acknowledging inner life in a very measurable way. So, we have two of our best selling books, that is, The Spiritual Indian Corporate and The Corporate Spirituality Models, Measurement, Challenges, Ethics, and Answers, both being Amazon bestsellers. These the books give the models of implementation, how you can actually go about implementing workplace spirituality, and how you what are the scales for it, what are the challenges, what are the ethical issues, etc. And how we reach here is because so prima facie, when you get into research, you have to have a problem statement.
Right.
And so, if you're going to cover that later, I'll cover that later, or I can go on and tell how did we reach there.
So we'll cover
How
it
do you want
later.
it to go? Okay,
So we'll go with the questionnaire.
sure.
Okay. So to start with, how would you describe your leadership journey so far?
I would not say that we have been really as a leader or anything like that. We are people who want to make a difference in a very positive way. We want to solve a persistent problem that is existing currently in the corporate world of the psychological contract being broken,
Mm-hmm.
and both the employer and the employee suffering because of workplace toxicity, and
Right.
because and there are losses happening, and there are the people are suffering at work, and that comes to the families and societies at large. So we are trying to solve a problem through our research. So up till now, though people give us a lot of labels, positive ones also, but we don't stick to them as being opinion leaders or anything like that. We are people who are trying to make a positive difference for the
Right.
betterment of the people working in the corporate and the society at large.
Yes, right. So when you start something new, you need to first find out what is the problem, then what is the solution, and then you can kickstart your solutions which you are coming up with, right?
Yeah, so you basically have to first. So how did I reach here? Is so I worked in corporate for
Hmm.
around 10 years before coming into research
Oh.
in really good companies, and in really meaty roles.
Mm-hmm.
Those you can call as leadership roles in
Okay.
HR.
Mm-hmm.
And being in those capacities, I realized that there is a gap in the way in which we are seeing people at work.
Okay.
These eminent companies were really doing their best for the
Mm-hmm.
employees, but then still the engagement levels were not to that level. There were higher attrition levels also, and there was a blind area that led me to research to find out what is the missing piece of the puzzle. Well, what are we missing out?
Right.
And
Okay.
my background in transcendental meditation led me to try to see if the can spirituality increase employee engagement at work, what kind of spirituality can be at workplace. And we realized that there's a construct of workplace spirituality that already exists
Okay.
in the research domain. It
Mm-hmm.
started in 1999 in the US
Mm.
by Ashmus and Denton. They have a book also named as The Spiritual Audit of Corporate America, but they
Mm.
had a religious context to it.
Oh.
Since 2004, the research in India has been there. our major contribution has been to make it in a very implementable and measurable format and bring it to the audience, which is the managers and practitioners in the corporate world.
Right.
So it's about engaging the spirit of the employees, which is the highest form of engagement. So we
Hmm.
can discuss later of how the understanding of people at work has evolved and etc. So
Right.
yes.
So you talked about your leadership skills. So what originally drew you to explore the intersection of business and spirituality?
So, so if we go about to understand how the people at work have evolved, the understanding of people at work, it started with the industrial era, wherein people were considered as an extension of machines. And then there was a search which said that people are thinking beings. There's a mind and the intellect that needs to be engaged for the increase in productivity and increase in profitability. Then came the Elton Mayo study, which said that people are emotional beings. There's an emotional energy within people, which, when honed in a proper manner, leads to better profitability and sustenance for the organization.
Right.
So, since past 20 years in the research domain, so
Hmm.
this is something that has not come up in the management domain. So our contribution has been to present it in the management domain in a very implementable format. That there is
Oh.
a spirit within the employees, which is the highest form of engagement that we can have of people at work. If we engage the spirit, when we say spirit, it is the uniqueness of the person. So I
Hmm.
am unique, you are unique, any other person is unique. And if we engage that uniqueness of the person, which is not there with the competitor, it leads to sustained competitive advantage for the organization. And it's a win-win situation for both. And it's a
Right.
cultural initiative. It's an OD initiative. And
Right.
like any other OD initiative, it has to come from the top.
All right. So how do you define conscious or spiritually informed leadership in today's corporate world?
So, when we say leadership, which is spiritually aligned, we say a leader who works on the principles of workplace spirituality,
Hmm.
wherein when he is sitting with the team, he identifies his team members and allocates tasks according to what they see as meaning in their life through work. So if a person really, wants to make a difference in the society and all of those things, you send that person for those kind of jobs.
Right.
And if a person wants a desk job and wants to really, use his mind at work, you give the person those analytical skills. So
Right.
that is one thing. Then the second thing that comes is their values and organization values matching. So when the tasks are assigned, or when the team is built, or when even when you're recruiting people, you have to see to it that the person's core values and the organizational core values are in tandem. How much ever qualified the person is, if these two are not in tandem, there's a persistent conflict, and with that conflict, no
Right.
one benefits. So this
Yes.
is something that has been a huge gap in the. So we take people based on skills, but what about these values? So for the organization needs to identify, the leader needs to identify what values that the company stands for. At the same, and those needs to resonate at least to a certain extent to the from the probable employees
Right.
and the current employees.
Right.
Then there has to be a sense of community. When we say sense of community, it basically means the person should feel at ease with the people that the person is working with. And that happens only when the thought process matches the shared goals, and these things happen right at the recruitment level. The entire employee life cycle has to the leader has to ensure that the entire employee life cycle aligns with these principles of workplace spirituality. Then there is something as compassion. If
Hmm.
something has happened, how is the leader reacting? Like we have AI and generative AI now taking up the jobs, how are we reacting? So the best of the employers are also giving knee-jerk reactions, which is breaking again further psychological contact. It's just a phase. So more, the jobs will get redefined, people will get upskilled, but what remains is how did you treat the change?
Right.
And that will define how the employees will react to you in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
And then we say that they are falling business empires, and by the checklist they have done everything right. But the problem here lies is no one gave them the heads up which was required at the right time, because they did not show any citizenship behavior. And
Right.
why would they even show, when there's no compassion in the culture? And then is acknowledging inner life. So when we say acknowledging inner life, is giving the employees that window of peace and sanctity wherein they are able to identify who they actually are. They get those thinking windows, and they get those balances at work, and balances in life, wherein they are able to balance themselves in. So a leader working on these five principles of workplace spirituality, we would call them as spiritual leader.
Okay. That's great. So we'll talk about your book, The Corporate Spirituality. So could you just share one practical framework that leadership can apply from it?
Yes, so in the chapter 2 itself, we have a model which starts with the workplace spirituality dimensions,
Mm-hmm.
and then it shows how it impacts positively on the employee attitudes and the employer attitudes. So when we have a culture based on meaning in life through work, sense of community, shared organization values, inner life, and compassion, it leads to positive employee attitude of increased job involvement, increased organizational commitment, alignment of organizational goals, increase in citizenship behavior, increase in job satisfaction, and increase in employee engagement. And how the employer attitude positively changes is there is an increase in benevolence, generativity, humanism, integrity, justice, mutuality, responsibility, receptivity, respect, and trust. So these are not hypothetical. This is not a hypothetical model. So there are researches which are linking each of the dots and each of the arrows that we have made in the model. So, an increase in positive employee attitude and increase in positive employer attitude together results in a conducive work environment, which the indicators of which are increased performance, decreased absenteeism, decreased turnover, increased happiness quotient, increased creativity, positive employer brand, increased personal fulfillment, and increase in positive communications, which together leads to sustained competitive advantage for the organization. So
Mm.
this is the model of implementation that we have put across in the book, and it's a very practical and implementable way, because at least in the research domain, each of these points have been studied and each of these arrow marks have been empirically linked. So it's just that it has not reached its right kind of audience, and we have ensured now that it reaches through the book, through our books, and now through our consultancy. And now in our consultancy also, we are in tie-up with Leeds Trinity University, UK,
Mm-hmm.
and they would also be consulting on values at work with us, with our prospective clients. So we are doing everything in our power so that the right values at work reach the right kind of audience, which is the need of the hour right now.
Okay, that's great. So when you speak about ethics and challenges, are there any ethical aspects you think leadership often overlook?
Uh, the major ethical challenge that the leader faces these days is the balance between organizational profitability and individual growth. So that thin line is something which is what we can say as the experience or the acumen of a leader to balance. So many times what happens is the person might be performing really well, but might not be really good in the organizational ecosystem, and which is leading to low performance to the entire team. But he is performing really well. But then does he get promoted? Because the organization in totality is not really benefiting from the person. So this is one ethical dilemma. Another ethical dilemma is specifically the ones that most organizations are facing globally, is when there's a change in technology, and there's a rapid change in technology. What do we do when there's less time to upskill? Or, so it's been almost 1.5 years when everyone knew that AI is going to take over.
Hmm.
So we would really want to know how many companies have actually invested in upskilling their current employees. There was a
Right.
lot of noise. And
Yes.
now when the water has gone above the head, and when there is AI everywhere, that is when left, right, and center there are layoffs happening. And
Right.
still there is a need for people who have skilled themselves.
Right.
So a better way would have been wherein the companies plan the training. So there are very few companies like TCS has done it. So there are very few companies who have responded and not reacted to the change. So
Hmm.
these are certain ethical dilemmas which needs to be addressed at the right time and at the right place, so that there is a balance within the organization.
Right.
So these we see as major ethical challenges for the current leaders.
Right. So when you talk about AI, so I also understand that. So as you say, the layoffs are going on. Why these layoffs are going on? Because people not upscaling their skills, right? They're not learning the current trends going on, right? So when someone replaces them, the company has to pay a lot more than what they had to pay to the upscaling or the learning fees
Exactly.
they might require, right? But organizations are not realizing this challenge, but they are now.
Probably, so our major work lies in challenging the status quo, or something that is seen to be very normal. So the
Hmm.
reactions that we are seeing from the industry mostly are coming from how they see as a normal reaction. There has to
Yeah.
be certain benchmarks, and rather companies who have done great in managing these kind of changes needs to be promoted a lot more, so that the benchmarking of what is a normal way of reacting changes.
Right.
So it's a herd mentality. Everyone is doing, so we are also doing. So if that benchmark itself changes of what is the right way of responding, that makes a lot of difference.
Right. Yes. Correct. So, what does a spiritually healthy workplace look like in measurable terms?
So we have a scale, a copyrighted scale, which is the workplace spirituality scale,
Hmm.
which is a 40-item scale, again based on these five dimensions only.
Okay.
In our consultancy, we certify companies as workplace spiritual organizations or corporate spiritual organizations. And just it doesn't happen overnight that you take a survey and we certify
Right.
you. So we start with the leadership team, and we do workshops and we do coaching. So workshops happen across levels, and we have executive coaching so that the leadership is in alignment with the kind of culture that needs to get incorporated in the organization to have the targets that they really want to achieve and the blind spots that they really want to address.
Right.
Once that is done, that is when we introduce the scale to the individuals and the organization. So both scores are there, and then there is a developmental plan for individuals, teams, and the organization at large, and we
Mm.
reevaluate it after 6 months. And when we see that the desired change has happened in the levels of corporate spirituality, that is when that level certification is given. At the same time, we have certification courses for individuals also,
Hmm.
2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, so that the leadership team or the individuals or the students who are going to be future managers can equip themselves with this construct, so that they would not even need us. It would be a part of their system, and they can implement it in their own organizations themselves also. So
Right.
that is what we are doing in a very measurable way. The major lacuna in doing all of this, what we had found in research, was the measurability. So we ensured that we plug that gap. Even before us, in India, there have been 4 5 really major cited scales, but we can't pick from them because they are published scales and can't be used commercially. We so in my research also, I had my own published scale, but we
Hmm.
can't use them commercially. So we had to come up with another scale with the desired reliability and validity. So yes, now we have it, and we are trying our best to promote the same, so that the individuals, organizations, and society at large benefits from the same.
Right. And I believe it should be a recurring practice, right? It should not
Yes,
be
yes.
one time that organization should not think like that I have invested or I have done this once, so I should not be doing it again. No.
So
When
there's
the
tenure.
yeah, right. So when people switch their job again, you get new employees, new management people. So then again, you have to educate them. Again, you have to make them understand what exactly we are doing, what ethics we are following, what work culture we follow. Then again, these kind of trainings and these kind of sessions helps them to understand better, right?
Exactly. So when we are saying that the entire employee life cycle has to align, so it
Hmm.
starts from recruitment. So when you're recruiting people, we see these principles.
Hmm.
Then the induction also reinforces it. Then
Hmm.
the performance management has the, so if there's a balance scorecard, if
Hmm.
there are four parameters, there's this as a fifth parameter.
Right.
Then the training programs also align with these principles in terms of reinforcing these and measuring these. So this is a recurring and ongoing activity. And at the same time, when there is a exit happening, again in the exit also we check that has the exit happened because the organization or the individuals or the leadership has flawed on these principles. So we make them non-negotiable.
Right. That's right. So we'll talk about your latest book, The Spiritual Indian Corporate. So
That's the first one.
so
The
that
second one is yes, the first one is the spiritual Indian corporate, which gave the construct of it, the concept of it.
okay.
And the second one is the corporate spirituality, models,
Okay.
measurement, challenges, ethics, and
So
answers.
so what inspired this perspective?
So after I finished my doctorate in 2001, 2002, 2021, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to the corporate, like everyone does, and was back to work. And and being in HR domain, I realized how relevant my research is still, and how much it is still required. So I could not just let the entire research stay in my bookshelf.
Mm.
So what I did was I just wrote a book which was more of for the intent of information dissemination. That there is another perspective of seeing workplace and seeing people at work. And it was only a conceptual book, The Spiritual Indian Corporate. Though I had, even then, I had measurement scales and models, etc. I had not put it across because when you're doing that, you don't know what kind of response you're even going to get. So the first book was only a conceptual understanding,
Mm.
but then it became a bestseller within a month's time, and we had industry veterans like TV Rao sir really hailing it and saying that he had a vision that 3 years before that spiritual HRM is the future of HR. But he even sent a YouTube video wherein he had said that. But he did not know the how part of it. So TV Rao sir, you would Nathan sir. SV Nathan sir is the just past president of NHR, National President NHRD India, and currently the head of PwC HR.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that yes, we can't distinguish the person at work and at personal life. The person is the same, and we really need this to be implemented, at least in the Indian context. And that gave us the boost to come up with the second book, because people started asking, okay, this construct and concept is very good, but how do you do it?
Mm.
So with that came the second book.
Oh.
Sorry, with those answers.
Mm-hmm.
And now then the people started asking, yes, we need support. Okay, reading the book is fine, but you need to prototype it. You need
Mm.
to basically benchmark it so that others can follow. So
Right.
for doing that, we have the consultancy, which
Mm.
is the corporatespirituality.com.
Okay. Is there anything coming up, new book or anything new coming up?
Yes, so we are planning, once we have launched this consultancy formally, we are planning a book for leadership, only for
Okay.
the leadership. So how
Oh,
do workplace spirituality can be incorporated by leaders? So these are the three things that we are parallelly working on.
okay. She talk about leadership. So, what role does inner awareness or mindfulness play in your leadership style?
It is very, very important that the leaders first understand themselves, and they're trained to be leaders. So obviously there are people who are born leaders, but then
Right,
in what context does the organization wants them to be leaders?
right,
That training needs to happen. That the succession planning really needs to happen from two skip levels down before you promote someone to a leadership level.
right,
So when we say mindfulness, awareness, so these things we really, so the person really need not sit and meditate and do yoga, and only then this these kind of awareness comes. It comes from the culture and from the structure of the organization also, which is very much required, because if that is not there and you put someone on a leadership pedestal and the person really doesn't knows how to function, that leads to a lot of chaos, and something that we are seeing a lot in the organizational context these days.
hmm,
So pre-training, pre-awareness is something that is really required before you nurture someone to the leadership level.
right.
So
Absolutely correct. So, how do you personally stay grounded amid professional pressures?
So I try to strike a balance in all that I do. So now we have the startup, we have the book, we have a lot of sessions happening. So a lot of things keep happening, and even when I was in corporate, it was very hectic. So how do I stay grounded? Is I have certain hobbies. So I do oil painting, I do poetry writing, and obviously meditation is something that I do every day, that
Mhm.
aligns me to my inner self, and what is something that gives me real peace. So that answers a lot of questions within me every single day. That keeps
Mhm.
me really grounded. Apart from that, I have two kids. They are 6-year-old twins.
Oh,
So they don't leave a scope for me to go haywire. I
mhm.
need to remain grounded to nurture them.
Right.
So, yeah, so these are certain things that contribute to me remaining balanced and performing well. So, yeah.
So, coming to corporate spirituality, so how big is your team, and how do you align team performance with a deeper sense of purpose?
Because we are a startup, our team is very small. We are a
Mm-hmm.
group of only 5 people,
Okay.
but very skilled and very
Mm-hmm.
impactful. We have global leaders also, and eminent influencers also with us. So, how do we go together doing it is with our shared understanding of the purpose of
Mm-hmm.
why we are having this startup of the corporate spirituality. Herein, yes, we want to make profits, because obviously we all want to sustain ourselves. But
Right.
at the same time, we see that as a byproduct of the services that we provide in terms of enhancing the organizational culture and sustainability. So once we benefit the organization, that is the goal, uh, so that the individuals and the organizations benefit, and as a byproduct, our company grows. So
Right.
that's how we function.
Okay. So, how can leaders begin to shift organizational culture towards more value-driven models?
So, the leaders, if they have to shift the organizational culture to more values-driven models, is they have to first incorporate those values themselves. It cannot be just a lip service. And as we were discussing, these shared values needs to be a part of the entire organizational life cycle. It cannot be just one induction that
Right.
you give or a website activity or an induction activity, or once in a year team bonding activity wherein you do an activity on certain values and principles that the organization stands for. It has to be practiced, breathed at every single working day, every single working hour. Every decision needs to be taken keeping in mind of these principles that the organization stands for. only then these values can be a part of organizational culture. Otherwise, it remains as lip service and doesn't really contributes to the organizational growth.
Okay. So, in your view, is specialty scalable across different corporate structures? Is it possible?
Yes, absolutely. So, our research says that corporate spirituality as a construct can be implemented in a startup in a
Mm-hmm.
very easy way because the culture is still setting up. So, that's the lowest hanging fruit for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the organization is well established, it takes at least 2 to 3 years for the culture to actually change.
Mm.
And if there's a transition, so last we had a client which was in a double state wherein there was a merger and a demerger both happening, so which led to a lot of chaos in the organization. And people, the people were not able to trust, and there were the people leaving the organization. They wanted the workforce to stay, they wanted the culture also to happen in a proper way. So all kinds of organizational structures can incorporate corporate spirituality or workplace spirituality, because these are certain positive principles at work that we are talking of in a very measurable and implementable manner. So if someone really incorporates it or imbibes it, after a certain point of practicing it, it becomes next to common sense.
Right.
It is not something which wherein you really need to have a rocket science to understand these.
Right.
These are actually humanizing people at work.
Mm.
Engaging spirit is what? Engaging the human at work to the
Right.
highest level. So it is a second nature for people. Just that is our work lies in reminding people of who they actually are, and what the organization should actually stand for.
Okay. So, last one piece of advice to future leaders seeking both performance and peace, what would it be?
The best advice right now that we can give is, please, in any scenario, be compassionate.
Okay.
Compassion is the need of the hour.
Hmm.
You see, all the news that we are reading these days and all the incidences that we are hearing these days, what lies as a crux is lack of compassion. If there is compassion, if there is understanding of their own challenges and the others' challenges, a more informed decisions and a more streamlined plan of action can be in place, which will lead to organizational sustenance. But the knee-jerk reactions that we are seeing these days, we at research at least we really doubt of the future of the organizations, because these they have broken the trust not just of their internal employees, but they have really tainted themselves in terms of employer branding.
Yeah.
So if the organization really wants to sustain themselves for the next 10 years,
Mhm.
they really need to be compassionate in driving the changes internally and externally. So that's the advice that we would really want to give.
Okay. So that's it. That's it from my end. Dr. Anshul, if you would like to add anything which I missed, please.
Herein, we would only want to request people to please
Mhm.
visit our website, thecorporatespirituality.com, and there's links to our YouTube channels and our other social media handles. So, of course, you can take our services. But more than anything else, we would want you to understand this construct and implement it in your organization. You can have our books from Amazon. The links we can share in the caption. And if you really read them, they have been made in such a way that both these books together enable you to implement this in your organization. If you falter, we are always there, but if you really read it, you can have this culture, and which we think that at least right now, if you do it, it will benefit the leadership, the employees, and the organizational profitability also. So we would want to leave at that note.
Okay. So
Thank
what's
you.
the best channel to connect with you?
You can connect with us on on our website through our
Mhm.
email. That's spiritualindiancorporate@gmail.com.
Okay.
You can call on our phone number, that is 9916388816. And there is a contact form also on our website. You can drop your details there and we can contact you back. So these are the ways you can connect with the corporatespirituality.com, and we look forward to connecting and making a positive change.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Anshul Gupta. It's a great talking with you, and it's a great information you shared about corporate spirituality. So I hope our readers, our viewers, will see this podcast and make some changes in their corporate leadership and everything, right? Culture.
Thank you, Nitin, for having us. People like you really help us reach the right kind of audience. So thank you again.
Thank you, thank you.